Yo weeks, this to back, welcome, and guys on Going What's. Now not too long ago over on my Twitter, I ran a poll to see what recipe you guys wanted me to do for that week, and two tied for number one. The sheet pan crunch wrap, which we did last week pretty successfully, if I might add, and number two was the rainbow pasta. So today I'm going to be trying to accomplish said rainbow pasta in two different methods. Number one being the easy and artificial way with a box of plain pasta and a bunch of food colorings mixed up in a bag. Number two being the super long, difficult way, homemade pasta, no artificial stuff, the coloring coming from veggies and spices. I got my work cut out for me today, so let's get right into it. So guys, obviously, this homemade pasta is gonna be 10 times harder, so I'm gonna try to knock it out of the way first. But all you need for the pasta and the coloring is some flour, a couple of eggs and some spinach leaves, salt, turmeric, a beetroot, and tomato paste. That's it. Now guys, I will link this homemade pasta recipe down in the description. I'm using this because it's the simplest, it's the most straightforward, and this guy has pretty good results with this. So shout outs to Steve for this recipe. And the first thing we're gonna do is prepare all of the colorings for the pasta. With the first one being a simple can of tomato paste. We're only gonna use about 2 tablespoons of this. So once I popped it open, I set it off to the side. Next up, I wilted my spinach, and I'm using baby spinach. He did not. I'm praying this won't make that big of a difference, but I covered it in some cool water, brought it to a boil, and just let it wilt for like a minute, no more than that. Now the third color is gonna be red, and we're using a beetroot for that, but because I am very scared of staining my brand new cutting board with this beetroot, the preschool plate is on the chopping block today, apparently. This is what I look like in the year 2000. Those were much simpler times back then, to say the least. But I wore some gloves as to not stain my fingers while I was doing this, and I tried to dice these up as small as I possibly could. Obviously because if they're too big, they won't go through my pasta press, and we'll just have a big mess. But now is the point where we can make the actual base of the pasta dough. Thank God for my scale, because I had to measure out 100 grams of flour, a little bit of salt, and just 1 egg. It's a really simple pasta recipe. I gave this a quick stir before adding in that tomato paste, and tried to incorporate that into the flour and the egg. This is very messy. The first couple of minutes of mixing this, I was not very optimistic, but luckily, after I kneaded it all together for a few minutes, I did end up with a pretty nice orange color. You're also gonna wanna wrap all of these in some plastic wrap so they don't dry out while we make the other 3. Number 2, obviously, is the spinach, so I took that out of the water and squished out all the extra juice. Prepared my little flour volcano, the egg, and what now looks like a big wad of green chewed up gum. This one was quite a bit more difficult to incorporate in my dough and get that color to shine through, but eventually it did. You do see some of the bits of the spinach leaves in there, but overall I'm happy with the green that we have. Now for the third one, I'm gonna try for a yellow, and for that I'm using some ground turmeric. I have no idea how much to use here. I'm literally just guessing. In the video, Steve used some saffron, so this is just on me, I guess. This was definitely the driest of the pastas so far. I had to add a little bit of extra water, and it did come together well. It kind of just looks like a normal yellow pasta color. But lastly is the dreaded beetroot. So for the 4th time, I grabbed some flour, salt, and egg, and tossed in a bunch of my minced beetroot. After I mixed it up and started to knead it, I noticed it is a light pink, but the chunks of beet are still very visible. It looks kind of gross, if I'm being honest. But eventually it came together, so I'm just gonna roll with it. I honestly did not expect to get this many uses out of this pasta machine. It has been a blessing. I think this is the 3rd recipe I've used this with in the past month or so. So I began by flattening out my tomato paste pasta, and as I started to flatten it out and eventually cut it into some fettuccine noodles, like, this thing is unbelievably loud. Just listen to this thing for a second. And bearing in mind I'm filming this at 1:30 in the morning and my entire family is asleep, I have to move this operation to the basement. But next up, I tried to roll out my beetroot pasta, and let's just say the chunks of beet do not like this pasta machine. It was ripping, it was not staying together, the pieces of little beet were getting crushed and stuck in the rollers. It was just a mess. Now, a sane person might throw this out and start again. They might throw it in the garbage and just completely overlook it and not even bother. I am not that person. I got the bright idea of sitting there for an hour and picking all these little chunks of beetroot out of this damn pasta. And let's just say after about 20 minutes-ish, I began to lose my mind a little bit. Why do I even bother with these things? Could have just stuck to trick shots, throw basketballs off my roof in the back of my car. That would have been a lot easier life. Nope. Instead, I'm sitting here in my basement at 1:30 picking 300 pieces of beetroot out of this pasta dough. Anyone got trypophobia out there? Anyone? Oh, there you go. That's a good one for you. Okay. Now that those are all removed and I've rolled this out nicely, I'm honestly surprised that this ended up being workable at all. I did not think I'd get anywhere with this, but here we are. After I sent each and every one of my pasta sheets through my fettuccine cutter, they worked, but I did have to take a little bit of time pulling each individual noodle apart. Sometimes I didn't cut all the way through, or some of the spinach leaves were a little bit stuck together. No big deal though, I have some great looking fettuccine pasta. Probably the best looking pasta I've ever made. So I gave all of that pasta a quick blanch in my boiling water. I'm not gonna leave this for longer than 90 seconds at most. Fresh pasta cooks so quickly. I was also debating keeping the color separate and then cooking them in all different pots maybe, but I figured that would kind of defeat the purpose of this, so I threw it all together, I drained them all together, and guys, shockingly, after a few hurdles that we have jumped, we have achieved homemade rainbow pasta. It kind of looks like ketchup on the top for some reason. It smells so good though. It smells like some fancy Italian restaurant. I'm very interested to see how all these varying flavors kind of come together in the same bite. Guys, this is good. Wow, the pasta still has a nice bite to it. It's not mushy. I would say I don't love the tomato paste ones for some reason. I taste that over everything else. Overall though, I really can't complain. I guess the colors could be a little bit more vibrant, but you're using vegetables and turmeric and beetroot. Like, this is good, and I'll probably finish it later. But for right now, we got some more pasta to make. For rainbow pasta number 2, I just boiled a box of normal spaghetti. Very simple stuff. And you all know what we're gonna use? Some nice artificial food coloring. On the blog that I read, where I'm getting this recipe from, they combined 2 tablespoons of water with 20 drops of food coloring. I'm gonna do half of that amount, so 1 tablespoon of water to 10 drops of each color. Obviously in separate bags for each color, or else it'll make a disgusting brown. And once those were ready and mixed up and my pasta was cooked and strained, I equally divided the pasta into 4 different bags. They look like candy or like colored worms or something. I definitely didn't think they would take on the color that quickly and be this vibrant and bright, but I guess that's what artificial coloring is for. After you mix the pasta with each color, you do want to toss it back in the strainer and use some cool water to rinse off any of the excess food dye. Eventually adding all 4 colors back to the original pot and mixing it up. I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted with this thing. It looks fake. It looks like plastic. I can definitely say I have achieved the look of that blog that I was trying to follow. I didn't put any sauce on this because I feel like it would kind of ruin it. Look at that. What? It looks like a unicorn threw up on my plate. I don't even know why I'm trying this. It's just normal spaghetti with food dye in it. It just, look, you can make a wig out of this. Someone screenshot that. I don't know. That's weird, man. I would say it's a good way to get your kids to eat this, but it's not like pasta is healthy, so I don't even know. So let's compare these real quick. On the ease of making it, definitely this one. On final presentation, probably this one as well, but like health-wise, taste-wise, like actually being a full meal, I'd say this one's the winner. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, leave me a big like. Follow me over on Twitter, Instagram. I said this a few weeks ago, but they just announced me, so I'll say it again. I'm going to Playlist Orlando. I hope to see a ton of you guys there. But other than that, I hope you have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you right back here next time.